All right, good morning. We do apologize for that slight delay, but we are here to kickstart your day and your week. My name is Freddy Ndimuli. This is the Morning Cafe, Kamakawa, Kamada. Tuko Upper with the big headlines. Today on the State of the Nation, we'll have Kipruto Arapkirwa and Samuel Pogisio. Dr. Mumbingaru will not be able to join us. But after that, Monday Blitz. Yes, the weekend sports, I'm telling you yesterday. Arsenal tulikuwa tumepita nayo. Lakini kuna vile mambo ilitendeka. The duo of Shutterboy and Fred Arocho will be in studio alongside the beautiful Florence Ndongo to help us understand where we're going in as far as sports is concerned. Quick look at the headlines. DP survival options as Kindiki's star shines. And I'm telling you, it is a hot week. This one, siutasemaje. In other dailies, they talk about glass being off. Adani state ignores better deals for JKIA. That's a big headline on the Standard today. But of course, the deputy president on all the front pages today. Politics of betrayal as Gachagua fights back is on the front page. That's a big story. We'll be looking at that. It is a main story on the People Daily. Ruto men set to reap from DP's misfortunes, and the three men who are set to reap benefits. How exactly? You can read that. They include Kithure Kindiki, Ndindi Nyoro, and Kimani Ichung'wah. On the front page of the Daily Nation, State House and Interior in 4 billion shilling secret spending. The word secret should be underlined. Why exactly they're talking about this. The gloves are off. That's another big headline on the front page of this daily. The issue to do with the deputy president. That's the Daily Nation. Nimeachia Mungu, the deputy president, also on the front page of gazeti la Taifa Leo. Gachagua asema hata ikiwa rais hatatimiza ahadi ya kutomtesa alivyoahidi mnamo 2022, Mola atampigania. Habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Masuala ya biashara. How Kirubi Group exit sparked old mutual shareholder battle. It's a big headline on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Regional matters, abductions, Samia envoys face off. Now, this is a story that has been hitting all the headlines in Tanzania of late. Don't cry louder than the bereaved president tells diplomats in Dar. U.S. ambassador says they won't back down in quest for upholding of rights in run-up to Tanzania's election. Why the diplomats are not speaking in Kenya's situation, we still do not know, because yes, there are claims of abductions in Kenya as well. This is East African, and that's the lead story on the front page as well. In Uganda, they talk about something totally different. This is the front page of the Daily Monitor. Donor cash dries up as refugees flood in. Even as Uganda continues to extend open arms to refugees, donors are increasingly folding their giving hands, much to the chagrin of officials in Kampala. That's a big story on the Daily Monitor today. Mwananchi, Sativa kuwashtaki IGP AG adai fidia, na ni masuala ya abductions, kutekwa nyara. Mawakili wake watoa notisi wakidai mteja wao alipwe kwa maumivu ya mwili, utesaji na udhalilishaji aliyofanyiwa. Matters abduction still on the front pages of the dailies in Tanzania. This is the front page of the Mwananchi. Let's go back to Uganda briefly and take a look at the new vision. Matters 2026, what Muhoozi's stand means, and the Chief of Defense Forces of Uganda, who is also the son to the president, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, at the weekend said that in the next election going forward, no civilian will be president in Uganda. It has to be a military person. So what exactly does that mean? After Museveni, it has to be a military person. The elections are coming up in 2026, and the new vision looks at that. What Muhoozi's stand means. We'll back to take a look at the cartoons. Yes. Let's now come back and take a look at the dailies this morning in depth in as far as the local newspapers are concerned. Right, and we start off with the Star newspaper. Smart people read the Star. Grab yourself a copy of this one. The front page of the Star this morning. Deputy President survival options as Kindiki's star shines. And you will realize that this entire week, the story about the Deputy President will be a big discussion. especially after he gave that interview to Citizen TV last Friday. Everyone is talking about what happens yesterday for the very first time. I heard people speaking at the Deputy President's rally and actually saying Ruto must go in front of the Deputy President. What exactly does it mean? In other dailies, they talk about gloves being off. On the Star, they choose to talk about his survival options. Battle lines, MP Sudi said Gachagua will be impeached in the next 2 weeks. Regarding its support of at least 117 MPs and 13 senators to defeat impeachment motion. So basically what the Star has done is break down how the Deputy President can actually survive this impeachment motion, which looks more likely than ever before. So you can read this story on pages 4 and 5 of this daily. A picture of the president interacting with some of the police officers in Haiti, where he made an impromptu stopover to interact and boost the morale of the police services, police force officers there at Port-au-Prince. The president says he will send 600 more police officers to Haiti for that mission. Quick highlights: how county chiefs created loopholes for ghost workers. That's on page 6 of the Star. It's there on top. Down here on the front page of the Star, 6 Al-Shabaab militants killed, 9 wounded in ambush in Garissa County. Elsewhere, inside Ruto plan to revamp civil service and enhance service delivery for Kenyans. And finally, tough regime for flowers, vegetable farmers in new bill to regulate the sector. So these are just some of the stories on the front page of the Star. Grab yourself a copy and read more. On the Standard, still on that Adani story, Adani state ignores better deals for JKIA. So listen to this. 2 feasibility studies on the airport's expansion, one by Adani and the other by KAA, returned 2 starkly different proposals and investment costs. And curiously, the government chose to go with Adani's, which was 27 billion shillings more costly than its own 211 billion projection, totally ignoring expert opinion. Now, this is a story on page 6 and 7 of this daily. So, kwa nini serikali iamue kupoteza tu pesa hivyo? Aha. Kwingineko, how government can improve lives without more taxes. This is according to Treasury CS John Buddy. Deadline for public input on the budget review and outlook paper is today. And as officials mull ways of raising revenues, they do not need to be obsessed with increased taxation. The story is on page 9. And of course, the big story of the day and what everyone is talking about, politics of betrayal. As Gachagua fights back, it is there on the front page, and you can see the Deputy President conferring with the Githunguri MP Gathoni wa Mushomba and former UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala, who now appears to be firmly on the Deputy President's side. Now, this was yesterday during a function at Pefa Branch Church in Thika. So daggers have been drawn following reports of an alleged impeachment motion being prepared against the Deputy President, with regard to Gachagua yesterday exciting his constituency with his own version. He further claimed politics to blame for underdevelopment. Now, yesterday began with the Deputy President calling the President my boss. By the time the day was ending, he was referring to him simply as William. Other quick highlights on the front page of the Standard. Ruto options in wake of rebellion. Mount Kenya lots. Weak labor market hurts economy. UN alarm after Lebanon strike. And finally, Ten Hag, Manu lack killer instinct. Yes, that's the back page of the Standard. Matter Sports. Ten Hag bemoans Man United's lack of killer instinct, but they've never had this instinct either way. Sijui tunashughulika sana kwa nini. Kuna timu zingine tunafaa kushughulika nazo kama zile zina hold champions Man City. Arsenal actually did a very good job yesterday, and I think they should be on the dailies. Man United wanaweza ngojea tuwaeke huko ndani. Mahali tunanganga crossword. On the front page of the People Daily, Ruto men set to reap from DP's misfortunes. Watu wamekasirika sana. This is the front page of the People Daily. They say bleak future. This is a different angle from what the Star has gone with. The Star looks at the Deputy President's options to survive this impeachment. On the People Daily, the front page, they look at who stands to benefit once the Deputy President is impeached. So they say Interior CS, that's Kithure Kindiki, is touted as possible replacement, a move that would see a majority leader sent to Harambee House. Oh, possibly, as a CS for Interior. Interesting. And Kiharu MP elevated to House leadership if Gachagua is kicked out. Okay, so they've already planned that once Rigathi Gachagua is out. Kithure Kindiki becomes deputy president. Then Kimani Ichung'wah takes over as CS for Interior. And Ndindi Nyoro takes over as majority leader in parliament. What do you think about that? Interesting. Interesting. Ruto's men set to reap from DP's misfortunes. Other stories still on politics. Kalonzo Karua parties on the sport over money. Questions being asked about how they've spent taxpayers' money as far as political parties' funding is concerned. Pale juu kuna story moja very interesting. My father rejected my fiancée because of her tribe. Very sad story. It is there on page 20 of the People Daily. This is a story you would want to read. Matters tribe and relationships. What would happen? On the front page of the Daily Nation, State House and Interior in 4 billion shilling secret spending. Provision for emergency allocations has been the subject of a recent parliamentary investigation. Now, this is spending outside the approval of the approved budgets. State House and the Interior Ministry spent nearly 4 billion shillings outside the budget in the financial year ended June 30th. With little disclosure made for the extra cash, the requests totaling 6.5 billion for national security and state functions were made on the same day. Same day. 6.5 billion. But Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakango declined to clear the full amount. That's a very interesting story. Kwani hii pesa inatumikanga tu fwa? Of course, a big discussion has to do with the Deputy President. A picture of him there speaking to a mammoth crowd at Githurai yesterday. Said Deputy President Gachagua addresses a rally on Thika Road after attending Sunday service at PEFA Thika Town Cathedral in Kiambu County. The DP, who made stopovers at Thika Town, Wetavia and Githurai, asked President William Ruto to stop any impeachment plans. And the title reads, "The gloves are off," as Gachagua warns Ruto on impeachment plan. And as he said, the day started by the Deputy President referring to the President as my boss. By the time the day was ending, he was simply calling him William. That's a story on the Daily Nation. Very interesting. Kutaendaje? It is boiling nicely, as they say. Kwenye kurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo anasema nimeachia Mungu. Gachagua asema hata ikiwa rais hatatimiza ahadi ya kutomtesa alivyoahidi mnamo mwaka 2022, Mola atampigania. Wandani wa naibu rais wajuta kutofuata ushauri wa Uhuru, huku wanasiasa wanaompinga wakisema lazima wamng'oe uongozini kabla ya mwaka huu kuisha. According to Kapseret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi, it's in the next 2 weeks. Amesema maximum 2 weeks. And yesterday, for the very first time, we had someone speaking at a rally by the Deputy President and simply saying Ruto must go, with the Deputy President watching and saying nothing. Kitendawili cha bilioni 3 kuliwa Ikulu. Mdhibiti wa bajeti asema pesa hizo za nje ya bajeti hazijulikani zilivyotumika. But you remember, they inherited a dilapidated economy. Maswala ya biashara, how Kirubi Group exit sparked old mutual shareholder battle. Minority investors feel shortchanged in share sale. Tycoon Joel Kibe sues insurance firm for financial loss. And they have pictures of 3 tycoons there, James Mugui, the late Chris Kirubi, and the late Joe Anjui. 3 Kenyan billionaires that I've just mentioned for years controlled UAP Holdings, which paid them substantial dividends from years of uninterrupted profitability. The tycoons have also ripped billions from calculated share sales that have left a bad taste in the mouths of minority investors plagued with a dividend drought and no way out of the insurer. Well, you can read that on the front page of the Business Daily. Elsewhere, savers stockpile 1.97 trillion shillings in fixed deposit accounts. Mumeka tu pesa, mnasema hakuna, lakini mmeka pesa kwa account. Fixed deposit, zikaya huko. Alafu mnasema hakuna pesa. Anyway, so those are the local dailies. We had already taken a look at the regional papers. Let's take a look at the cartoons this morning and see what they're talking about. And definitely they're all talking about the Deputy President and his wars. This is a cartoon on the Daily Nation. And the Deputy President there, who wears that typical district officer hat and is holding a copy of a newspaper that talks about Kawera surviving impeachment. He's making a phone call to the Meru governor, who's one time at least survived 3 attempts at impeachment. The 4th one was successful, but still in court. Sema, hello Kawera, hello. So you're calling the governor, akueleze kunaenda aje. Meanwhile, the moving truck iko pale nje, meaning your time is up as deputy president, time to pack up. Oscar Sudi amesema ni wiki mbili tu. Wengine wamesema you will enjoy Christmas without the flag. That's the Daily Nation. Very brutal, but tuseme nini? Sio sisi tumesema, ni hawa cartoonists hapa kwa magazeti. On the Standard, they steer clear of the local politics and talk about matters football and what Kenyan teams have been experiencing on the continental stage. We have Gor Mahia there, reeling from consecutive defeats by Egyptian clubs. And as far as continental championships are concerned, Kenya Police also defeated by Egyptian clubs. Na wanaambia, sorry buddies, this is not athletics. Mumezoea kukimbia sana, munafikiria munaweza kila kitu. Kwenye kuja kwa mpira, tulieni ama tutawa impeach. On the People Daily, Stano's take. Yes, the deputy president, once again, a caricature of him with that now infamous crown on his head, ile crown ya Murima, ile Murima walisema usiguse. Now he's reading a manual on how to survive as a deputy president in Kenya. But this manual has been written by so many people who did not survive these positions as deputy president. I think only one, Daniel Moi, survived. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga did not survive. Mwai Kibaki did not survive. Dr. Joshua Karanja definitely did not survive. Professor George Saitoti suffered a similar fate. William Ruto also had his own issues. But apparently, deputy president should learn from these people who've occupied this position in the past. Matters to do with the deputy president and his wars on the front, on the cartoon, on the People Daily. And finally, on the Star, still the same issue. Deputy president. And there's a quote here, famous quote by Karl Marx. History repeats itself, first as tragedy, second as farce. And yes, the deputy president there, seated outside a room, anasema amekuwa locked out of a WhatsApp group. So hii room ni WhatsApp. You can see the padlock is a WhatsApp logo. That is one of his biggest wars. Alileftishwa kwa group ya WhatsApp. Do you know how painful it is kuleftishwa kwa WhatsApp group? Ile umeingia, umechangia, umetoa mada, umesema hivi, you know we need to do this and the other. Probably hata ulichanga pesa ya harambee. Alafu unaleftishwa kwa group. Hata utasikiaje. It's very painful. That's a cartoon on the Star today. We'll be back to take a look at not so many stories. Today, of course, the deputy president and his wars, possible impeachment, will be the biggest discussion today. And Kipruto Arap Kirwa and Samuel Pogisio, former cabinet ministers in the Kibaki administration, will be with us for that discussion. Do stand by for that and a lot more. Remember, for lovers of sports, Monday Blitz will be coming your way at exactly 8 a.m. with Fred Arocho and Shutterboy. Nakumbusha sijaangalia barabara leo. Let's take a look at the traffic. Na tumeanza leo Mombasa, mbali kweli kweli. Hapa Nyali Bridge kuna kuanga na issue, but ni kama wajaamka. Pale watu wanaotoka Bombolulu, just before you get to the junction into Nyali, a bit of a slowdown there because of that. But ukiangalia hapa kwenye Nyali Bridge hakuna issue sana leo. On the other side of town, let's take a look at the Likoni section. And nothing much also. It's taking time to build up. Najua kufika Mombasa mambo inakuwa ngumu. But yes, we do expect some traffic here, but I don't know why it's not loading. Let's come back to Nairobi. Tuangalie Nairobi tunafanya nini leo. Mbali. Yes. The traffic situation in Nairobi this morning, Monday traffic, typical Monday traffic. It's building up slowly. You can see areas around Pangani Interchange building up, a long stretch of that thread, and it's coming all the way from that Utalii Drift. This is serious. This is more than usual traffic. Anyone using Thika Road this morning may be experiencing quite, and it's headed as far back as Survey. Yes. The entire Utalii Drift past Mathare Mental Hospital is at a standstill as we speak. So anyone using Thika Road towards town, do expect to spend quite a lot of time here just before you get to the Pangani Interchange. This also means that those using Kiambu Road, do expect that you'll be extra slow around this interchange this morning. This is not typical traffic. There appears to be something more than the usual traffic along Thika Road this morning. Other areas, Landis Road building up slowly, Jogoo Road 2 at Makadara area, Mbotela, areas around St. Stephen's, Jogoo Road towards town, building up. Lakini now this is normal traffic. This is normal traffic. Nothing much. Landis Road as well as Marikiti area building up slowly. Mombasa Road, nothing much to report there. Southern Bypass is looking good. Langata Road is moving smoothly. Ngong Road, yes, and this area around the city mortuary, that section that joins with Agnes Kodek, it's a bit busy this morning. Further up the roads, Ngong Road a bit busy in areas like Prestige Plaza and Adams Arcade, also Junction Mall. So yes, it's building up, and I think kama unajaribu kuingia town mapema, ingia tu sahi, because otherwise utaumia. Yes. And that's the traffic situation this morning. Tuangalizie maswala ya weather pia. Na leo tumeharakisha. A quick look at the weather updates. As it continues to build slowly, last week I was in a very cold place. If you didn't get to watch on Friday, we were somewhere deep inside Abadere's forest. Kama hujaisikia baridi, I tell you, enda hapo. In Nairobi, it's 14 degrees as we speak. Celsius promises to be a very sunny day. A bit of cloud cover, highs of 24 degrees. Comfortable weather in as far as Nairobi is concerned. The latest city in Kenya is very cold this morning, 13 degrees Celsius, feels like 12. Sunny intervals for the better part of the morning, but which could give way to a bit of showers and thunderstorms later in the evening. Highs of 23 degrees, but once you get to 4 p.m., thunderstorms into the night. So, watu Eldoret, unaweza beba mwavuli leo. Na maybe kutakuwa na matope kiasi. Twende kule juu, Moyale, 21 degrees Celsius, but feels like 24. That's very interesting. Sunlight throughout the day, no possibility of rain. A bit of cloud cover, highs of 28 degrees, actually 29 degrees in Moyale, and that is more than holiday weather. If we want to take a look at holiday weather, let's check out Mombasa. It is actually 24 degrees Celsius as we speak, but feels like 27. It's quite hot. Can you imagine 27 degrees at 6:30 in the morning? A bit of showers this morning, drizzling, but it promises to get as high as 28 degrees. The drizzle could continue into the afternoon, which will give way to sunny intervals later in the day. That is the kind of holiday weather, if at all you are in those areas of Mombasa. Let's take a look at the other city, and that's Nakuru, 14 degrees Celsius this morning. Very sunny morning, a bit of cloud cover, giving way to some showers around early afternoon, 1 p.m. to about 3 p.m., then gives way to more sunny intervals later in the day. So that's just the situation we have in as far as the weather is concerned this morning, and we'll continue keeping tabs on that as well as the traffic. Yes, big discussion today. What will happen to the deputy president? Amepatiwa 2 weeks na ameambiwa by Christmas hiyo bendera anabeba hapo mbele ya gari yake itakuwa imetoka. Moto inawaka. We'll be here with former cabinet ministers Kipruto Kirwa and Samuel Pogisio. So do stand by for that. And as always, be part of this conversation on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. You can tag me as well. On X, my handle is at Fred Indimule.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
You're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
All right, right, you're right in time for a look at the big headlines this morning. The Daily Nation, State House and Interior in 4 billion shillings secret spending. Standard, Adani, state ignores better deals for JKIA. The Star, DP's survival options as Kindiki stars shine. On other dailies, a quick one. On the People Daily, we talk about Ruto men set to reap from DP's misfortunes. And on Taifa Leo, nimeachia Mungu, Gachagua asema. Just a quick look at the headlines today, and of course the Deputy President on all the front pages across board, and with that impending impeachment. This morning we're privileged to have in studio with us Samuel Pogisio. Samuel Pogisio was ICT Minister in the Kibaki II administration. He has also served as Senate Majority Leader. Good morning, karibu sana. Also with us this morning, Kipruto Rapkirwa, Agriculture Minister in the Kibaki I administration. Good morning, karibu sana. I know the issues around the possible impeachment of the Deputy President will form our biggest discussion today, but I want us to focus on the financial matters highlighted on the top two dailies this morning on the front pages. On the Daily Nation, they talk about State House and Interior spending 4 billion shillings. Secret spending. And the question is, Daily Nation asks, what emergency? State House and the Interior Ministry spent nearly 4 billion shillings outside the budget in the financial year ended June 30th, with little disclosure made for the extra cash. The requests totaling 6.5 billion shillings for national security and state functions were made on the same day. But Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakango declined to clear the full amount. The story is on page 7. The two gentlemen here have both served in the cabinet, and probably you may understand exactly what this kind of emergency spending could mean. What the law says is that spending outside the approved budget is allowed under Article 223 of the Constitution. Such spending is reserved for emergency situations such as abrupt but necessary functions and disasters where initially approved expenditure is insufficient. Parliament's approval must be sought for the expenditure at most 2 months after the first withdrawal. Bwana Pogisio, in your experience, is this normal, this kind of spending? And do you think that probably we may have had emergency situations in the recent past that may have necessitated this kind of spending?
Well, Fred, thank you, and good morning again to your viewers. One of the things that quickly catches attention is that Article 223 seems to answer itself. And by saying that the Constitution allows it, then people take advantage of that, and to create emergency situations is not a problem. It's not a difficult thing. It's very normal for governments to actually do that, because there is a confidential budget, and then there is confidential programs that government has, and sometimes we, the citizens, don't have to know about it until we ask about it. And most of the time people forget to do that. Members of Parliament forget to do that. And so if you are quiet, if we go quiet, nobody's asking about it and nobody's questioning it, because this is 2 years in a row, and every time you're going to have to ask it. The Auditor General comes once in a year, mostly post-mortem. And the internal audits don't happen on those things. These are the things that are happening. So government can decide to say, well, there was disruptions. We had disruptions. Okay. We had COVID, or we had Gen Zs, or they can create that explanation, and usually they get away with it. Or I think I can just say that all governments get away with it. But this is actually bigger than what most governments would.
So in your own assessment, probably the one issue that could pass for an emergency of that nature is probably the protests that we had.
That's what I'm thinking. Yes. It doesn't come out very clearly. Mm-hmm. But what else would it be? Tear gas was needed, and all these things were needed. So it was quickly needed. So and then you had things like Haiti happening, or I don't know. I mean, there is a need for Parliament to question some of these things. But you see, when the majority are with the government, the deal is you see no evil, hear no evil at this point. sometimes it actually benefits those kind of people, and so they will not say anything about it.
Yes.
Truth is, we are not transparent enough to let the people, the taxpayer, know, and that's our undoing. And so the people who want to do evil will definitely take advantage of this silent law in the Constitution. And of course, these monies are the ones that go into very funny things that you hear about. Programs are created to allow for, I mean, the government has been accused, for example, of abductions and things like that. There are so many things that government uses money for which it would be difficult to explain.
Okay.
It would be very difficult to explain. And sometimes it goes to, what do we call it? Diehard supporters of government, people who need this and that.
Simply handouts.
I mean, simply, yeah. But you cannot explain that to the public. Yeah.
When we're looking at Bonakirio at the budget allocations, and even before the finance bill was rejected, some of the allocations and reduced allocations included one for free primary education and a school feeding program, I remember. And it was about 4.9 billion shillings, and it was reduced to about 1.5. Now we are in a state where more Kenyans are able to access some of this information. More Kenyans are even willing to look for this information. We're in a state of heightened awareness about so many things. So when we come from a budget where we see a reduction in the amount given to a school feeding program for 4.9 billion, and then we see an emergency that we are not sure about that spends 4 billion in a whim, they had actually asked for 6.5 billion shillings. These are the issues that cause Kenyans to ask questions. And the Daily Nation is right in asking, what emergency, don't you think?
Yes, as Mheshimiwa has put it, whenever you see some of these, I don't want to call it erroneous, some of these misguided expenses taking place, there is always some corruption in it. There is some corruption in it in the sense that why don't you become transparent? And as, of course, the article of the Constitution does explain, you can spend, but tell us exactly where did you take that money? And lack of any explanation and allowing it to be an audit query is a sign that something was not transparent from the beginning. Because all expenses by government, whether it's from the consolidated fund, which at times is allowed for certain extraneous conditions, must have post-facto approval by Parliament. And if it doesn't come to Parliament, it means there was mischief from the beginning of time. This therefore means such issues raised by the officer are issues that Kenyans should be vigilant. Of course, thanks to information technology, which exposes some of these before even as it takes off. But nonetheless, I think it is important for us to ask the government of more and more transparency as a way of earning some modicum of trust. Otherwise, they run the risk of being suspected even of things that they could have explained, whether it was floods, which we know ravaged the country some time back, whether it was COVID, depending on which period we are talking about. And whatever the reason, we must explain. This therefore means that that is a minus on the page of the government of the day.
Okay. And of course, many people would expect that Parliament would play its role and raise the issues because according to the law, and the Daily Nation has done as justice, provided the provision of law how this money can be spent, and says that even when it is spent, Parliament's approval must be sought for the expenditure at most 2 months after the first withdrawal. Whether or not we've seen this in our National Assembly, we do not know. Still talking about financial issues, the Standard today talks about the Adani deal. State ignored deals, better deals for JKIA. According to the Standard, 2 feasibility studies on the airport's expansion, one by Adani and the other by the Kenya Airports Authority, returned 2 starkly different proposals and investment costs. And curiously, the government chose to go with Adani's, which was 27 billion shillings more costly than its own 211 billion projection, totally ignoring expert opinion. So many questions have been asked. The government is very much insistent on this Adani deal, despite the skepticism and the opposition, even from Kenyans generally. It would appear there's other questions to be asked. If at all KAA did a feasibility study, is there any justification why the government would choose to go with a different deal when its own entity has given a different feasibility study and outcome?
Yeah, but the contradiction in this thing, Fred, is even after offering that of that tender as KAA, KAA is also the first one to embrace the other. And so it tells you, maybe was it a gimmick played on us? Because, I mean, under normal circumstances, the better deal is the one that you go for. I mean, in procurement law, you don't go for the more expensive deal unless for
that
some
is a
reason.
basic structure of how government operates.
Yeah. And so what really contradicts the whole thing is now the government side, and individuals have been named, the government side, including KAA itself, the heads of KAA, are the ones promoting the other options. So I think just to fulfill, I think they did it just to fulfill the requirement that you cannot send one proposal. You have to have more than one proposal as a condition. Because I don't understand how, if in the neighboring countries, you'll find things have been done using government are cheaper and have achieved more. Listen, I mean, you still can borrow the same money as government. You can borrow the same money as KAA. You can use the banks to actually prepare this, to get you out of this kind of thing. And then if you want to get an outside contractor, you can do it. But really the funding and the conditions given for this deal is outrageous. I mean, to Kenyans, I think Kenyans have been told in simple terms, your airport has been sold for 30 years and beyond. And that is outrageous. I mean, Kenyans themselves are asking questions in the villages. They're asking, who can do this? What kind of person can do this? Who can sell their own airport, their own asset? It's a security asset for the country. It's a commercial asset for the country. It makes money. But anyway, you know, we are known for thinking outside those structures that are legal and more about myself, what is in for me, what's in for my friends, what's in for my party, what's in. Instead of thinking, surely, in the long term, you are going to be a normal citizen. Let me tell you, anybody who is in power now is going to be an ordinary citizen at some point. It's granted. And you'll be looking from the other side and saying, what did we do? What was this that we did? How did we manage to put the government of the country into this kind of situation? And I wish people would start thinking about that now. When you're no longer in government, you see things clearly. And you realize what a fallacy. You wanted to make money for your friends, but now you put the whole country in some kind of turmoil. So I don't know. I think this headline here should be a wake-up call. Okay. That we had another option. Up to now, we didn't know this option, by the way. Now we know that there was another option. And that even more infuriating. Okay. And then I really hope our members of parliament can do justice and end this thing. I heard somewhere Adani saying that they haven't concluded the deal, which means we have a chance to rescue the country from this kind of deal. I don't know whether that was true from the documents that were presented, that they had not really reached a point of signing this deal. If that be true, I want to ask our parliament, they are the ones who can stop this deal. Stop this deal, and let's have KAA with partners, with government, build this thing with the same resources without having to.
Yet, when it comes to privatization of government entities, and we had this conversation sometime late last year, when there was a proposal to privatize quite a number of entities. JKIA was not mentioned at that time, but KICC was among that had been discussed. And the feeling was that even Parliament itself had abrogated its role and decided that given too much leeway to the executive to do all it may feel necessary. And in such a situation, many Kenyans may feel helpless and hopeless that are we just reduced to sitting back and watching the government make such decisions and there's nothing much we can do about it?
Yeah. Well, at times this may be fodder for a revolution, because when people feel helpless from the executive, from the leaders themselves, that is members of parliament, and at times even our judiciary lets us down by allowing certain decisions which probably would have been stayed until the processes are right. So that may be fodder for revolution. But before the revolution does take place, there are a number of challenges that you see in this Adani deal. One is actually the conditions. If you are to look at the two categories, you realize by all stretch of imagination, apart from the pricing, which is 27 billion more, and that actually may be the explanation, that this 27 billion more might have been the money that was shared by the midwives of the process, so that they allow Adani as long as they have gotten their bit. And that may be creating the complication. You want to tell Adani, get out of the place, he says, where's my money? Because I've already given you the money. The second issue is that while the other one was going to be competitive and therefore any other person would have come, the one of Adani was sort of a preferred participant. And the conditions Adani set, they are the ones who set those conditions. So it's like you give me a job and I do my own manual to achieve the end for me to qualify. And imagine they started the process 1st of March. By 18th of March, they had already almost gotten approval. Mm-hmm. Those are some of the challenges that you find. Apart from that, Adani has demonstrated to us that it is not as transparent as it is stating. In some of the countries, they have been penalized. I think it should be Switzerland. And even some of their money has been held because of impropriety. And some of the countries are crying in the wake of their departure, having not completed projects. So these are some of the issues that you get into a deal just because you know that you may be there for 5 years or 10 years, and you leave us with another 20 years or 25 years of a misdirected investment. Mm. This is something that is worrying. But as my colleague has said, we hope Parliament, for the first time, will rise to the occasion. Senate has demonstrated by almost not dealing with party lines. Almost both those in Kenya Kwanza and those in the opposition side making very strong statements towards it. But is the government listening? That is my worry.
Okay.
I hope also the cases that are now being taken to court by a number of entities are going to be listened to, so that public participation must be open, not by just getting some few individuals and be pretending that this is now public participation. Mm-hmm. Or in one political rally, telling people Adani must come, and the people say yes, and you say Adani is in town.
Okay. Indeed, there's a headline on page 7 of the Standard talking about Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Badi will be appearing before the Senate today over a statement sought by Kisii Senator Richard Onyonka on the leasing of JKIA to Adani Airport Holdings. That's the Indian private company. Those are just some of the headlines on the dailies today. We'll be back to take a look at the big one, Maswala ya Mlima. That after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
You're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Biggest headline today. It may not be the biggest on the front page of the Daily Nation or the Standard, but it is definitely there on the front pages and on all other dailies today. DP survival options as Kindiki's star shines. That's a star. Politics of betrayal as Gachagua fights back. That's a Standard. The gloves are off as Gachagua warns Ruto on impeachment plan. That's a Daily Nation. On the front page of People Daily, Ruto men set to reap from DP's misfortunes. And on Taifa Leo, ukurasa wa mbele wanasema nimeachia Mungu, Gachagua asema. That's the biggest story from the weekend. I'm still in studio with Ministers Kipruto Rapkiro and Samuel Pogisio from the Kibaki administration. A lot can be said from that interview that the Deputy President gave Citizen TV on Friday. He said a lot. We've seen within the days immediately after that a clear deterioration of the matter. Yesterday, and as one person on Twitter rightly puts it, in the morning, the Deputy President in Thika was referring to his boss, William Ruto, as my president, my boss. By evening, he was calling him William during a rally after that. And clearly, the gloves are off. Let's listen to some of the bites from what different leaders are talking about this deteriorating relationship between the president and his deputy over the weekend.
The leader of majority, I can tell you, there has never been any impeachment motion against the deputy president. That has been his creation, and those that he walks around with is a sympathy-seeking gimmick to try and incite people from the Mount Kenya region, and more so against members of parliament.
Isiwe wewe unasimama kila siku na kusema ati mimi ni msema kweli, na wewe ndio mwongo mkubwa. Unaongeza kwa uongo, unaongea usiku, unaongea mchana, mambo unaongea ukishika microphone, mambo tofauti unaongea ukiwa kwa ofisi. Hiyo ni kwa kiongozi kweli? Na mimi nataka niseme tusidanganyane.
It's upon our boss, President William Ruto, to call his house to order.
Have you spoken to the president?
Yes, I've talked to the president several times. And I've asked him to call his house to order. Yeah, he's here to do it, and I trust he'll do it, because how can people be meeting possibly at this time to discuss how to impeach a deputy president when the country needs a lot of work to be done?
Unaambia president wako to keep your house in order. How can you do that? Experience is important. Kuna kitu inaitwa Official Secrets Act. You cannot go to TV and expose what happens that the president has told you something directly. It is wrong.
I'm looking at Honorable Oscar Sudi's Twitter page and the series of tweets from yesterday, 16 hours ago, 14 hours ago, and 11 hours ago. It started by him saying maximum 2 weeks. The next tweet he says, I repeat once again, 2 weeks home. The third one he says, and he uses a video of the deputy president and some of the members of parliament on Thika Road, and he says the die is cast, good riddance. So we've discussed issues about the possible impeachment of the deputy president. But even before we talk about that, has it ever been this bad in the history of Kenya and its deputy or vice presidents that we get to see this kind of exchange so publicly? Bwana Pugisio.
Well, I'm afraid there is something that I heard the deputy president allude to. And he said that this position is jinxed. And there is something about being deputy that really makes life very difficult. In this country, we have not created a good environment for deputy anything. Deputy headmaster, deputy chief, deputy whatever. Deputy governors are going through the same thing. We've had deputy... When we had vice presidents, you know, it was a bit more subtle. But since we've started deputy presidents, it's been a bit more, I think I would say, it's not even violent, but it's gone to a place where it's difficult to remove a deputy president. Let me just put it that way. Mm-hmm. It was easier to remove a vice president. So it was a bit civil. But because you know that the deputy president, to remove today, process has to go through parliament. It's an impeachment process. It's not easy, so the process must be rough and hard, and must involve a lot of incitements, so that people feel that it's bad enough. So by the time you hear Oscar Sudi saying 2 weeks, he's had it. I mean, it is part of the scheme to make sure that the fight and the push is hard enough. And the deputy president also knows that he must also incite his side of the story to the people who will support him. And for some reason, both sides are gaining in their own numbers, you see. So what is the issue now? The issue is, if you are deputy president, deputy governor, deputy anything, it is difficult to just throw you out. But the people must start digging deeper and causing it to look like you have crossed the Rubicon. Mm-hmm. You've crossed the red line. And I think that's what they're pushing the deputy president to be. Unfortunately for me, and this is what I stand on, the deputy president has already decided to cross it. And there, the other side said, okay, I've crossed it, now what? And that's where you either, using that tactic, it's also a good offensive tactic that he has gone into. He's decided to be offensive, to bring it on, so that it's not just defensive. And I think we will wait to see what the president does when he comes back. He's already used his own people. I mean, by the time Oscar Sudi is talking like he's talking, and definitely he has been asked or been told what to do. So yeah, it's a very strange situation. I've been through almost since all that President Moi's time, all the vice presidents of Moi, and Kibaki's 2 vice presidents, but this one, from the last term of Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, this has been replicated so quickly. So it looks like everybody knows this script. Even when William Ruto was suffering from it, he knew the script. And so he can bring it back on his deputy. And I don't know, anybody who wants to be deputy president next time, it looks to me like there's a script in State House that has been left behind for this kind of thing. But the thing that I worry about, Fred, is the church is back to square one. The church is back to that literally poverty situation where you allow the politicians to take a chunk of the time of worship in church. And all they do there is to fight. And the clergy is just watching. And that's what the Gen Zs had reached a point where they were telling us that let's not use the church to do our fights. We are back to that place.
Okay.
We're back to a situation where the churches are saying, yeah, if you have money for us, you know. So that situation is something to watch. And then the second thing to watch is the level of community incitements and tribal incitements that have come in. It is a very bad trend for the country. So we have now to look for our inciters. You know, we know among ourselves, members of parliament, wherever, who are the greatest inciters, who are the people who can incite the community towards this and that. And you can identify from both sides who are doing that. So those are the dangers to watch. Okay. Church involvement and now community incitements.
Yeah. And I remember the current Speaker of the National Assembly talking about a different issue, famously said that the divorce is going to be noisy and messy.
Yeah.
It cannot get noisier or messier than this. For the very first time, we had someone speaking in one of those rallies right in front of the Deputy President and leading a chant of Ruto must go yesterday, Bwana Kirwa. Yes, we've seen strained relations between presidents and their deputies, but this time around, this one appears to be a bit noisy and messy.
Well, it's getting even toxic because I feel the office of the deputy president and that of the president should handle their dirty linen in privacy for the sake of public unity, because the two offices ought to be the semblance or an area where national unity is described. More so given the two communities. We may not want to be naming it that way, but you know the two communities has had some kind of altercations in the past, and it was not very good for this country. And in fact, one of the credit I gave to William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta is the fact that 5 years down the road, they were able to bring communities that were at war together and allow them to vote in the same direction. That was supposed to be a serious healing process. But I feel something was missed. There should have been serious national reconciliation akin to the one that took place in South Africa. But because of lack of that, and somebody might have been waiting for it to be used as a threat to any community for that matter, and that threat is coming live, particularly in some areas of this country. Or the issue, talking of Murima and talking of Rift Valley, and others talking of national unity, is just pretense. Each person has their own problem to resolve. The second issue is that it worries me. I saw Kimani Ichung'wah in another program, almost making it look like it's an economic war on the deputy president about the issue, the prices of coffee, and so forth and so forth. Now, they are bringing something which is not economic, and they are making it look economic to justify the impeachment process. Otherwise, if I was to advise the deputy president, the writing is clearly on the wall. Even the wall is telling us the writing is here. What he needs to do is perhaps to prepare himself for serious onslaught. And it doesn't assist him by looking like he's talking more than he should. What he should be doing is to strategize, learn the script from Mwambora, the former governor of Embu, and from Kawira. At the same time, read the script that failed Waititu. Because what I know is that impeachment may take place at midnight. By morning, 7 o'clock, deputy president is appointed. By 8 o'clock, before the courts open, there is already a deputy president being sworn in, having been appointed in the morning. Because that is how Waititu was typed. By the time he wanted to go to court, it was fait accompli. The horse had bolted from the stall. And therefore, as he reads Kawira and Wambora, he should also read the script from Songo and from Waititu for him to get a clear picture. Because once he's impeached, he will not run for office. And in Kenya, when you are not running for office, you are like an outgoing president. You lose the capacity to call the shots. When you are running, you still got some modicum of threat that you yourself may be in the ballot, or you can assist somebody else succeed in the ballot. And because you will be holding certain office, it will be easy. But otherwise, if you are saying, I'm not going to hold any office, I'm not going to be running mate, and yet to say, I prefer so and so, it will be very hard for him.
Now, I'm looking at Article 150 of the Constitution on the removal of a deputy president. They say the deputy president may be removed from office on the grounds of physical or mental incapacity to perform the functions of the office or be on impeachment. And impeachment, there are three grounds. One, on the ground of gross violation or provision of this Constitution or any other law. Secondly, where there are serious reasons to believe that the deputy president has committed a crime under national or international law. Or thirdly, gross misconduct. Now, looking at what is happening right now, there's a lot of politics, and one wonders how will they fit the provision of the Constitution into the political metrics, because clearly everyone can tell that this is purely political. But no one can actually see from these grounds on impeachment what exactly they would get the deputy president for. Do you think it's going to be that easy to impeach him, even if they have the numbers in parliament?
Well, you know, Fred, you know, when government wants to impeach you, they will impeach you. I mean, if it's not difficult you know, once you have decided you cross the Rubicon and you've crossed that red line, you're now at war with government. And I mean, government is big, and this, they'll find something even on Fred in the mullet, because they want to find something on you. This thing broadly called gross misconduct, as defined. You know, it's very broad. I mean, it's look at it. Some people were impeached, governors were impeached successfully on the same law that others could not be impeached. So for him, he has to look back at his life. It doesn't have to be what you committed now as a deputy president. They will look back to your life. They will look as far as they can. And there are people who specialize in those kind of things. And they'll find something. I mean, to impeach somebody, once we decide that we're going to impeach somebody, once you decide as a government that you're going to impeach somebody, that is what you start doing. When Sudi says in 2 weeks, for example, there's something he knows about that. When you see people speak about impeachment for deputy president, they know it is an arduous task. They know it's not an easy task. Okay, but if somebody is confident enough to say, to give even a timeline, it means they have been collecting information about you. Now, what the deputy president needs to do, which I think also he has a team, I'm sure he has a team of advisors and lawyers and so on, is to make sure that as you navigate this thing, you need to know exactly how to avoid certain loopholes, avoid certain traps that may be there, and so on and so on. Mm-hmm. Because he's also in government. And that's what helped William Ruto when he was a deputy president, that he was also in government and consumer of same information and would be helped by the same system that was targeting him. So, once you become a deputy president at that level, it becomes difficult to impeach you because you have been part of the presidency. You have your own budget, and you receive the same intelligence. You receive intelligence that's like the other person, and so you have an advantage which the governor doesn't have. You see, the governors are easy to impeach because once the MCs decide that this is what we mean by gross misconduct, okay, this is what we mean by abuse of office, and those are the ones which are easier to find. Abuse of office, you know. The other things about capacity, those may not be easy to find. So I do believe that when you decide to cross the Rubicon, when you decide to cross that line, you are armed enough. I do believe that way. You are armed enough to say we can go to the length in this fight. And he said it himself. The deputy president said, "I've been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. I've been in the system. I've been in government. I know exactly what I'm doing." So yeah, so it's not difficult, and yet you can make it difficult. I think William Ruto made it difficult for Uhuru. So you can make it difficult if you have the forces that help you to make that impeachment difficult. It's not going to be easy. Yeah. Even these 2 weeks that somebody talks about, not easy. I mean, 2 weeks to do what? Unless something else, not impeachment. Because I know for sure that by the time Parliament allows for that law, I mean, for that impeachment, there's going to be a bit of fight in Parliament. There's going to be a bit of a shouting match, and going to be messy, and going to be noisy before the real impeachment. My advice, of course, is you decide this is the end of the relationship. Don't try to look like you are also begging and at the same time trying to fight. If you decided you are going for this thing, be prepared for the long haul. And I think fighting within the office, from the office, it still has a chance to delay or to make sure that, because he's busy trying to build his community, he's busy building his friendships and building sympathy for himself. So I do believe that he has a chance to do that. The president has been quiet, but when he comes back, I'm not so sure he's going to be that quiet.
Bonakirwa, I asked you this question about the possible impeachment of the deputy president, I think a couple of months back, and you're very reluctant, and you said you don't see it happening. But out of necessity, probably political necessity, you did not see it happen before 2027. This time around, it looks very real. A lot of MPs decided this is happening. And Oscar Sudi, yes, that tweet saying 2 weeks, I think we have it. In the next 2 weeks, it's happening, probably the tabling of the impeachment motion. But as Bwana Pogisio says, and even as looking at the numbers, because we've been talking about the numbers and now ODM, how it comes to play, it would appear that the majority that the government now has will be used for the very first time on this impeachment.
Well, in fact, my take was not 2027, it was 2025, if Raila Odinga wins the AU position, so that the internal politics are rearranged. Because you see, the mountain has been rumbling, the mountain has shifted. Whether Rigathi will be impeached is actually better off out of government, or when he's impeached, than if he was to be part of this system up to the end. He will not be able to hold the mountain. The mountain has shifted. But now, the main battle the president must be struggling with is, where do I replace the mountain that has shifted? And that's why he wants to do away with him, so that he has enough time for healing, such that by the 2027, he still got certain block within the mountain, whether it's eastern of the mountain, south of the mountain, west of the mountain, and of course north of the mountain. That will assist him to top up in other areas, or as a top up to other votes. But what I'm seeing is that this has come too soon, and it may be ill-advised on the president himself. Because impeaching Rigathi, you make him a hero. Or if he was to resign, you make him a hero, and a hero that may not be a king, but he can easily be a kingmaker. And in that case, he destroys any arithmetic that he had for the mountain. So my take is, if Rigathi also have to advise, because when we come here, it is good also to advise. He needs to talk less and strategize. Because what I know is happening, which I know this regime is capable, or any other regime for that matter, you can be frustrated even with your assistant ministers. The officers, the peers and the team may make sure that the minister and the assistant ministers are not reading from the same script. They can make sure that deputy president, even if he picks a call to call a PS, the PS will not listen to him. He calls a chairman of a parastatal. The chairman will not listen to him. A CEO of a parastatal, they will call the minister. And therefore, he gets frustrated, because the way I see, the problem is not just what is happening about impeachment. It seems he's terribly frustrated by the regime he believes is the one who built it to what it is. So he should talk less, but be strategic. Be strategic in the sense that the book that was written, that you showed,
Or the cartoon on the
yes,
Daily.
yeah. You should have actually gotten from 3 people, or 4 or 5, how William survived, how Moi survived, then the 3 vice presidents, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wamalwa, and Mudi Awori. And the last 3 I've mentioned, served under a good president. So part of the reason why deputy presidents don't find themselves sitting pretty is when you start backbiting your deputy president with your juniors, that is the beginning of the end. It is like a mother backbiting their father, or the father backbiting the mother before the children. It is an issue that it is what I call political bad manners. You get somebody as a running mate, and some of the guys who are complaining now, I told them clearly when I was still in UDA, that Rigathi and Ruto, for those who have done industrial psychology, cannot survive 5 years
together.
I remember I sat with them, I told them, he will not survive. They told me, no, but you see Kindiki is from the other side of the mountain. But I told them there was Alice Wahome, there was Justin Muturi from this side of the mountain. Or even Chungwa could have been picked, and the Ruto would still have won. But I knew the 2 were not going to survive for 5 years. And it has come to pass. And I want them now to remember what I told them before I left them.
The People Daily has chosen to go with a different angle altogether. They talk about the Ruto men who are set to reap from DP's misfortunes. And they have 3 gentlemen there. Professor Kithure Kindiki, the current CS for Interior, Ndindi Nyoro, MP Kiharu, and Kimani Ichung'wah, the leader of majority. So according to the plan, is that once the deputy president is impeached, Interior CS is touted as a possible replacement as a deputy president, a move which would see the majority leader now sent to Harambee House as Interior CS, and then the Kiharu MP elevated to House leadership as majority leader. So definitely the president appears, if we could go with this, still keen to retain support from the mountain. But do you think this lineup would be able to appease the mountain?
Well, first of all, I don't understand how we bring in a CS into active politics, the way we brought Kindiki into active politics. I know he's not saying anything, but for you to accept that your name can be used at this point, while your oath of office is totally different, that might confuse the way we interpret our constitution. And I really hope that CS Kindiki keeps off completely. It's very appetizing, it's very easy to be drawn into it. But of now, we are not in a parliamentary system. We are in a system where the CS is almost like a public it's a state officer, but a public servant type of thing. We tried not to enter politics. He is a politician, but now he has to behave like he's not. And that's one. Number 2 is all these people, whoever they are headstrong. They are people who, whichever one of them becomes the deputy, they'll still behave like that deputy right now we have. These people are very ambitious, the 3 of them, very ambitious people. They all want to be president of this country. And the danger with our constitution created a deputy president who is so powerful. He's powerful in the sense that he's only a heartbeat away. And that is what scares the incumbent. Because if anything should happen to it, it's automatically the deputy president who takes over.
So many people are scared about that prospect. That, he is next in line.
Exactly. And that's why the fight is fierce. That's why it is actually corrosive. And sometimes people forget that this can lead into a national crisis, especially with communities that we see today. So I wish each one of them would understand there's no difference between those and Rigathi once they get elevated to that position. Because Rigathi tried for a long time to be humble, truthful man. He tried to say, I'm very loyal, my boss, my boss, my boss. Today he can't say that. Within a very short time, he can't say that. And who knows, maybe what he went through this time was a test of what kind of loyalty, what kind of loyal person he is. And that's why when I hear Mheshimiwa Kirwa saying, tell him to talk less. It's because this could be a test. They toss something, a bone at you, and they see how you actually react. So let me just be the arbiter who says, you may benefit, but the treatment given to deputy presidents will still be given to these guys.
Yes.
And the same thing, you'll have to react the same way as it is. But most important, and I'll leave this to my senior colleague here, who has been in UDA. I've never been in UDA myself. So you will understand, because he owns up that he advised the people. That I know all these people, we work together with them. It's the question of whetting your appetite. I'm waiting for Rigathi to be removed. And so everybody's behaving in that sense. I'm waiting for Rigathi to move. But will they benefit from the confidence, the trust of the mountain? I don't know that. I don't think so. I think that the mountain might bolt. There's a very good possibility the mountain could bolt with Rigathi or with another group of people who also are ambitious to get to the presidency or get or build a president for the next election. So, I mean, we have, as a country, we're going to be thrown into a situation where we have nothing else we do except fight political fights. And every weekend in churches, in wherever, we're going to be just doing politics. And at the same time, the economy is suffering. The people in the public sector and the common citizen is suffering. The state of suffering in this country. But we are now consuming, creating a new political agenda, which may be a red herring because the economy is bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this may look interesting, and for the three gentlemen who are named there, all from the Mount Kenya region. But it may not necessarily play out this way. A removal of the deputy president will create a space where everyone else would want to occupy, including the newly-found allies in ODM. That could even complicate it further for the president going forward. He may have a plan of how to elevate a few other people from Mount Kenya to retain the support, but it may not play out that way if ODM demands that that is ours as well.
Yeah, especially if it's done next year. And I told you, it would have been wise for the president to delay this impeachment, because he cannot pretend that he's not the one responsible. If all these allies are pointing fingers at the deputy president, who is also not making the situation better, otherwise he will be called a crybaby soon. He should keep quiet, plan, and tell them, I'm ready. One short statement. And also, when he's answering questions, he should be waiting for the person, the questioner, to complete. In fact, that's something I would also advise him. I saw in that interview with the Citizen, he was not allowing Sam Gitugu to finish the sentence. Then he answers. And you see, you run the risk of answering the wrong question or giving the wrong answer to the right question. Now, my take is that those around the president or the presidency are individuals who have been with the president far too long. Too long in the sense that they have come almost to own him. And therefore, anybody else coming and calling himself the boss will not get that pecking order. And that's why I think Ruto-Gachagua is getting frustrated. That powerful team may eat up the three gentlemen in the process and prefer to take a drastic move and even make Raila the deputy president of Kenya for the purposes of just stabilizing the country. You see, outside UDA, a constituency that can still boast of after Mount Kenya has moved, the largest block will be the ODM block that is loyal to Raila. So they should not just wait thinking that it will go to the mountain. The president may surprise them, may do a few adjustments, and even reduce the number of CSS around the mountain and make sure that he creates gravitas towards what I call the Western Alliance. Reincarnation of 2007 ODM. And nothing can stop even the president saying he's moving to ODM in the next election. And should he move to ODM, you'll find the loyal constituency of ODM plus his own loyal supporters. That will create a new dimension to the political equation of Kenya. So the mountain should not be singing pretty when one of their own is being sacrificed. As they say, as you see your friend being shaved, make sure that you put a piece of soap on your head. And the deputy presidency, as they say, heartbeat from the presidency, it never arrives. And there is a better saying in my community, that the nose and the mouth are so close, but they never meet. So, deputy presidency is not a guarantee to the presidency. And they should be aware of that. And a clean man like Kindiki should have actually been averse to getting closer to this kind of contest. He's going to destroy his future. And if he's going to be deputy president for the intervening period, he will have burned out by the end of the 3 years.
Well, the deputy president is definitely not sitting pretty and definitely not keeping quiet. He has been very busy since Friday talking about this possible impeachment. Let's listen in to what he had to say alongside his lieutenants over the weekend.
Muko na William Ruto?
Once President William Ruto's biggest cheerleader, Deputy President Ruto-Gachagwa's comments about his boss have progressively soured, with a new tone being struck as the DP warns against what he thinks will haunt his boss should the head of state ignore the current situation. With recent fallout between the two, who campaigned on the platform of unity and bottom-up agenda expected to uplift the people at the bottom of the pyramid, Gachagua has not been seen in public in recent days as his supporters accuse the ruling Kenya Kwanza coalition of mistreating him. Himself, a former deputy president, in April 2021, President William Ruto promised not to let his deputy experience the same mistreatment he experienced, referring to what he termed as humiliation by his then boss and those close to him. Fast forward 3 years, and the second in command, Ruto-Gachagua, feels the promise has been broken. And should the head of state ignore the current situation, he will be shooting his own feet.
Hii watu ya Mlima Kenya mimi nawaelewa sana. Kisaliti hii watu, uhusiano yako na hawa itafika mwisho. And it cannot be salvaged. I still think there is room for the president to put his house in order, talk to everybody, and let us get back to work.
Gachagua alluded to the hardships Ruto faced when serving as deputy president by stating that if Ruto permits his allies to degrade him, nobody will ever trust him.
The other day I asked the president to keep one promise to the people of Kenya that requires no funding, requires no IMF, requires no World Bank. He promised the people of Kenya that under his watch, his deputy will never be humiliated. Didn't he promise? We're asking him to keep that promise. If he can't keep that one promise, nobody can trust him to keep any other promise.
Gachagua allies, led by former UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala, stated that the ODM party-allied legislators reportedly pushing for the Oster motion will undermine the president from clinching the presidential seat in 2027.
Hawa watu wawili wataanza na kutoa naibu wako. But I want to assure you, hao watu in 2027 watakutoa wewe kama rais. Mimi nakuomba tafadhali, please, kama watoto wako, call your house to order. Don't punish Ruto-Gachagua.
Usikie sauti ya Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Wale wako katika mamlaka hawangekuwako. Lakini leo tunauliza, mbona unataka kuleta kilio kingi Mlima kwa sababu ya wema wao?
Lakini tunaogopa mtu ambaye anatusaliti. We hate betrayal.
It is believed that a section of Mount Kenya leaders' brazen choice to bench Gachagua in favor of Kindiki weakens the second in command, who has been issuing a clarion call to unify the region. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
The Star chose to go with a different angle, Deputy President's survival options as Kindiki's star shines. Is there a possibility that the Deputy President could survive this onslaught? They say he needs the support of at least 117 MPs in the National Assembly and 13 senators to defeat the impeachment. And if that goes through, do you see any other possibility of him surviving this? Or is it a done deal?
Well, Fred, I think survival options must be on the mind of the Deputy President right now. The whole thing now is about survival. And I said before, once he has crossed that line, which he has decided to do, he's now in the thick of the fight. And survival is the key. And he has chosen to be offensive to win some sympathy and hopefully win enough sympathy in the House to forestall an impeachment motion. But he should try and forestall that from even coming to the House, if he can. Because if it comes to the House with these new alliances, he could probably get that number, but it will be very difficult for him to survive once that motion comes to the House. What are his options? What does he have to do? Will he resign? Those are the options available to him. Will he wait to be thrown out, or will he resign? Because which one has gravitas, which gives him an opportunity to sustain the sympathy from the mountain. But even if he gains the sympathy from the mountain, how is he going to sustain the forces in the mountain to fight to the end of this term? Because you see, what that would happen is that the government would decide, for example, to bring another person from the mountain as deputy. Mm-hmm. And he will be overshadowed by that particular time. He will have no standing, or he has no power at that particular point. So he knows. And I do believe that he is ready. He must feel already like he's considered a general without an army, but he must bring that army. He must create that army, because once I tell you what, there is no survival in this political scene in Kenya without the mountain. Mm-hmm. And if you push the mountain out, and also I feel like the mountain cannot survive without being in government. Mm-hmm. So there is this diabolic thing that comes that they need the government because they're business people. I mean, they're enterprising. They're all these hardworking people, and the government is needed. They need to be in the corner of the government. At the same time, they need their own to be in the government so that they can survive. And one of the things that has happened is that maybe 3 or 4 options that he has. One is to see how he can forestall this matter before it comes to the House. But secondly, the choice that he could actually raise the steam basically by resigning or calling it quits and making sure that the mountain is with him on that point. Okay. But thirdly, making sure that the people who come in don't gain any entry into the mountain or don't gain the support, the level of support to basically supersede him. And I think with that, it's a very arduous task. He's capable. He's capable. I think that's the way he's going. Okay. He has rallied the church, and maybe the church in the mountain will support him. He's really tried to use the church, and there are enough members of parliament from the mountain, but I don't think there are enough critical mass. There's enough critical mass in the House. Those are some of the things that he has to face as a fighter. Okay. Because now he has to turn into a fighter. Yeah. Right.
There are definitely implications of an impeachment. If he is successfully impeached, that could eventually bar him from political office for quite a long time as well. There's the option that Bonapogisio suggests that he could opt to resign or fight the impeachment in court. Which one do you think is safer for him? And which one do you think is more palatable right now? If looking at the numbers, looks like a done deal. Should he consider resigning?
Yeah, it worries me more about the National Assembly. I was trying to do a catalogue of MPs who are likely to be with him, and I found it between 60 and 84. looking at those who are in the opposition, some few from Mount Kenya, and even the ODM supporters, some of them may not necessarily go the same way. But so, is not likely to get the threshold in the National Assembly. My take would be to do three things. One, is to get a nice team of lawyers to give him implication of all these actions and at what stage can he inject any decision to be taken. Because and I'm happy, if it will go again to the Senate, then he can inject in between the National Assembly's impeachment move so that it does not take off. They go to court and it does not take off. Otherwise, they can tell him, you are already complaining when the situation has not been determined by the Senate. So these are some of the areas you should have a look at. Number two, we should be asking ourselves, why do they want to impeach him? The issue that I know may be at the bottom of it is that table manners failed. They did not have good table manners. Otherwise, both sides were eating. And if they were eating, possibly ate in a way that the rest of the members at the table felt he was not displaying good conduct in terms of his table manners. And therefore, that means they are fighting over resources of the country. And therefore, that will continue to be on because I'm made to understand he's also a good entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur, many people who know also some kind of turning public resources into private resources don't like those who know how to go about it. The second question is also to scale it down to opinion leaders within the mountain so that there is pressure on the MPs for them not to go the impeachment route. That pressure should come from the ground. But public rallies are displaying him badly. He has done enough in terms of public, but now what he needs to do is to think about it. And when the lawyers tell him there is no possibility of success between National Assembly and the Senate, then the best thing to do is once the motion is in the House or is a business of the House, then he should resign to forestall that and make himself relevant, either to be in the ballot box or to support somebody else in the next election.
Wow. Option for him to resign or go to court. These are just some of the stories making headlines today. And yes, there's still the angle of ODM and how they will play into this through the voting, through their demands for more space in government, and that we wait to see. There's one story that I'd want us to look at as we come to the end of this discussion, and that's the president's trip to the US. He made an impromptu stopover in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, where he met the police officers there. On the front page of the Star, we have this picture of the president meeting the contingent of the Multinational Security Support Mission in Haiti. He prayed for them. He took some tea for them. And there's a lot of criticism that had gone or opposition to this mission to Haiti. But it would appear that so far, so good, things are going well. Do you think that probably we got it wrong? Most Kenyans got it wrong in criticizing the president's move to send police officers to Haiti.
These things came at the height of what we normally call the trust deficit in the government. Anything the government proposed looked like it was lacking the trust entity. And at that point, and one of the things that we say is the president and his team have never been clear to Kenyans about the details of this. And even from this trip, you can tell there is a certain amount of detail that is not clear, even to the forces themselves, and even to the president himself. So this thing was signed, and the details were not given to either side. I saw the questions being asked yesterday by the forces themselves, and even what the president was when he was answering, there are certain answers he didn't have, and so some of the things that you lose trust if you have no clarity There's no clear communication. And I tell you, this is one of the things that is going to be, affecting our relations for a long time. So the president goes there, and as usual, of course, the president, is the guy who prays. And so is now the choir leader. He sings the songs and then he prays. I don't know whether that's necessary at this particular point, because there are chaplains there. I mean, we've got people there who actually pray. It's important to show that you can pray, but you are now president of the country, okay? And this is what I want to say. You are the leader of everybody. Not everybody is comfortable with the prayer that you make. Not everybody is comfortable with a Christian prayer, for example. We are all Christian, but not everybody is. And so those people have 3 religions or 4 religions. I think we should have introduced all of them during that prayer time. But I want to commend the president for going. That gives confidence to our forces and taking them tea and other things. That is very good. Occasionally, it happens that the president has shown that the place is safe, okay? And now he has gone there personally to show that he believes our forces are doing a good job. The real situation is our forces are just preparing. They're still preparing. Some of the equipment has not come. Some of them have not arrived. They're actually still preparing. So we don't know yet whether this thing is, we got it wrong or we got it right. What we did get right was that we did not trust at that time that our forces were going to be safe because things were not clearly communicated to us. But as I said, there are times when I just have to come around and say, that was a good, smart political decision for the president to go in there and show that photo there is very good. And of course, even allowing them to ask questions was very good. So I think...
Even to Kenyans, Bwana Kirwa, the fact that he's showing that the mission to Haiti was not a flop the way many people had predicted. So far, nothing major has happened. So far, the police service, the officers there have been able to contain a good chunk and control a good chunk of Port-au-Prince as well. This is communication from the president that you were wrong. Do you agree that most of the critics may have been wrong in their prediction about what would happen there?
Well, so far so good, and we pray for those Kenyans to survive the full mission, time for the mission. I've been involved in such enterprises before, if it's an enterprise at all. Our soldiers going to Somalia is a paper that I did to the summit of heads of state and government of IGAD, and on the basis of that, we backed AMISOP to include Kenya as part of the team to assist to train the Somali owned security forces. But it was not easy, and even up to now, you cannot say you can go to Mogadishu and survive in the street the way you can survive in Nairobi. You still go, you have to go to the airport. From the airport, you get into an armored vehicle, and those armored vehicles are the ones you are seeing in the picture surrounding the president. So the president might have just gone to the airport and taken off unnoticed. By the time you are seeing all these clips, possibly was already in other waters or in other soil. So it may not be as easy as that. I worked in Somalia for 4 years. And anytime I was there, I had to be in the custody of Wamunyinyi within the barracks because he had a room there. So you should to share that room anytime I was in Mogadishu. And when you get out of the airport, because the AMISOM camp, you go through the airport gate to go to the AMISOM camp, where they are stationed, especially the ones from Uganda. And that is where you are hosted. And if you are going to Villa Somalia, which is the office of the president or state house, you have to get into an armored vehicle. You are taken through. Then you just alight, and they have to block with 3 other armored vehicles to make sure that as you are light, you get into the house. Then from there, you are taken again back to your cell, if we can call that. So we cannot really talk of the mission. This is just a display of hope. And we hope, with hope, there will be increased trust within the forces. Otherwise, we are yet to write the final sentence when it comes to the mission to Haiti. Why am I saying so? For the last 60 years, no mission has gone to Haiti and succeeded. So when we talk about history repeating itself, it is not figment of our imagination. It's too soon. It is a situation that does take place. And we are yet to confirm the mission to Haiti.
Okay. Parting shot?
Yeah.
Your parting shot?
My parting shot is that I pray for Kenya. And I pray for Rigathi to realize that he's dealing with William Ruto, somebody who has good memory for bad things.
Bwana Pogisio, your parting shot.
Maybe I should do the opposite and pray for William Ruto. First of all, that he doesn't put the country into an ethnic confrontation, politics of ethnicity, and I think that he should begin to be magnanimous to Kenyans at this particular time. This country is suffering. The economy is in tatters at this particular point. And Kenyans don't need another political shenanigan while they need food and they need fees and there are many strikes, universities and so on. The country needs peace. So if you can come and quell these ongoings, it will help the country.
All right. Thank you so much, Samuel Pogisio. ICT Minister in the Kibaki II administration, also served as Majority Leader in the Senate, and Kipruto Rapkirwa, Agriculture Minister in the Kibaki I administration. Our panelists this morning on State of the Nation, as we look at the big headlines, and of course the biggest talking point is the issue between the Deputy President and the President, the impeachment motion against the Deputy President that's looming in the National Assembly. Whether or not that will come this week or next week, time will tell. According to Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi, 2 weeks' time, something will have happened. Well, this is where we dock this morning, but after the break, Monday Blitz coming up, Fred Arocho and Shutterboy bringing us all the weekend highlights from sports. Yesterday, Arsenal did, well, a great job, but they were not necessarily as successful.